I'm going to deal with negative really quickly because I don't deal with negative really quickly. The bottom line is this: if you put 80% positive out there and your customers and your clients are putting positive information about you, when that 20% hits, you want a strong enough audience, you want a strong enough consumer customer base that if something hits, they can help support you. You don't want to delete it. Never delete a post because it's public and permanent. Somebody has already taken a picture of it. A lot of people want to hide it and try to kick it under the rug. You can't. The best way to handle it is being honest, being open. Sometimes humor can work, sometimes it can backfire. You need to be really, really good with humor if you try to do it with humor. But hey, we made a mistake. We apologize. And here's what we're going to do about it. Don't patronize people, don't talk down to people. You know, the crazy thing in life is this: those little things we learned when we were younger actually come in handy. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. How would you want to be treated if you were on the other end of what went wrong? And so a lot of times we just have to use our maturity. I tell my students, yes, you can Google what's in my brain probably in 2 minutes or less, but you can't get the wisdom that quickly. Context and content take a little bit more time. So leverage your wit, leverage your wisdom, leverage your experience. Your brand is your bond. You know, it used to be that it was the company name, etc., and there was just this company name. But really it's you, each individual, in addition to that umbrella company. So your brand is your bond. We've talked a little bit in the past about if you say you're going to be somewhere at a certain time, you have to be there ahead of time. You know, it's funny, Victor was looking for me, but I was already in the building, already pulled my stuff in, and was getting ready to move my car because I knew he'd be expecting me to be here. I didn't want him to have to look for me when I'm supposed to be here. And unfortunately, with a lot of our small businesses, people look for us and we're not there. That's a big deal. I know some of you are like, really? Seriously. The same thing happens with social media. Jewel was alluding to the need for blogging and websites. If you start a blog, you have to be consistent. If you're going to blog, say the first Monday morning of each month, as long as you're consistent, when you invite people to your house, you want to be there to greet them when they get there. And a lot of times we forget that. Now, sidebar, remember the 3 C's when it comes to social media. And Jewel alluded to this. I'm going to expand out a little bit. College students, consulting, and crowdsourcing. Those are your keys to social media. College students, because we have interns, not just at Belmont, but at TSU and Fisk and Vanderbilt and MTSU. We're surrounded by colleges. So you have interns everywhere who need experience, genuine experience. They don't need to be used. They need experience. Yes? Can I get an amen? Y'all full? Y'all done got sleepy already? Okay, I'm just checking. You know me. I do call and response all day long. So, college students, consulting, collaborative consulting. Because I know a lot of times small businesses, by yourselves, you may not have the budget. But if you go in with other small businesses and say, you know what, Dr. Syb or Jewel, we want to hire you guys to come in and help us, we're happy to do that. Because we got to eat too. You know, I don't stay this way just not eating. I have to eat. I really do. And a lot of times people think, oh no, they can do this, they can do that. You need to pay your consultants, just like you pay somebody else. So collaborate, come together, and people will be happy to work with you on social media. And the third piece is crowdsourcing, where it's free. Put a question out on Twitter. If you're trying to tackle an issue, ask the question on Twitter. Why? Twitter is an international research database, open to you. Whether you have a Twitter account or not, you can go on Google and search for Twitter and get the information you want or need. Who learned something already since I've been talking? All right, I'll get to the others in a minute. I'll go deeper. All right. Yes, ma'am.
So how much time should we spend on social media?
Initially, you can spend 20 to 30 minutes a day in the morning time or whatever time your prime time is. A lot of people think it takes a lot of time. It really just takes the time that you put into it, at least initially. You do want somebody dedicated to it because, again, you don't want your sites to become obsolete because you're not updating the information. If people keep coming and there's not new relevant information, they're not coming back. So if you don't have time to do it, if you don't want to do it, that's another important piece of the puzzle. How many of you have ever called a business and you could tell that person did not want to be on the phone? Hello? Hold on. And you can hear that. Well, social media is the same way. If you don't want to do it and you're not excited about doing it, I'm getting in my spot. If you're not excited about doing it, outsource it. Because you don't want to be in a situation where people can tell you're not good at it and you don't want to do it. You don't want that negative vibe and that negative energy. So to answer the question, for those who want to do it and are excited about it, want to try it, 20 to 30 minutes, set your timer so it doesn't suck up your time, because it can and it will. And once you do it well, people think I'm online all of the time. I'm not. There are weeks that I put the phone down, not the phone in terms of answering my family, but I'm just saying in terms of using social media. I don't use it all the time. It looks like I do, which is actually strategic. We'll talk about that later. But you want to make sure you are putting in energy and effort. How many of you love to see pictures? Most people. There's a book called Brain Rules by John Medina. People really do remember what they see longer than what they may read. So visual, the pictures are worth 1,000 words, literally. So when we use pictures, we engage the audience longer. They will stay on your website, on your Facebook post, on your tweet, etc., a longer period of time. They're also more likely to share a picture than just words. And that makes sense if you start to think about it, because we love pictures. A good picture, especially one that can make you do a gut laugh, we all need those. I mean, that's why the memes are so popular on Facebook. You know, whether it's the kittens or whatever, people are passing that. It's hilarious. Ask questions. You want to contribute to conversations. You want to give information and expertise so people want to engage in a conversation with you. Paternalism is dead. It always should have been dead. It never should have ruled in the first place. We're in a communal situation. Online is about community. You are not controlling anything. And that, I know, is unsettling for a lot of people. Professor, and my name escapes me, he's at Vanderbilt and he's going to kill me. Professor Outlaw is his last name, but he said, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. This is not a resort. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I'm not comfortable all the time. How do you think I feel after going to earn my PhD, going to school for 22 years, and all of a sudden you have students in the classroom know more than you do on some topics because they've researched it, but you leverage that. You bring them into the conversation. What can you contribute? What can you contribute? And it strengthens our classroom. You should be using it to target your audience. So you can try to find out who needs your service, who may need your service. You also need to find out who are the members of your tribe. Seth Godin, Godin. If you don't read or watch any of his videos online, you need to read something by Seth Godin. If you're not writing this down, you're going to get an F like my students. This is for you. You can stand here and look at me and then later on say, I can't remember. Seth Godin. He's a marketing guru and a master at tribes. And Seth borrowed the work of guru Kevin Kelly and said we need 1,000 fanatical fans. I've broken that down probably to 10 or 100 fanatical fans. You want people who love your business so much it sticks to them and they share the information about you. We're in a recommendation-driven society, period. I'm going to call my friends and say, have you used this plumber? What was your experience with this mechanic? How did this work? Or I may have my firsthand experience. That's what people are using. That's why each and every customer that you see is valuable to you. Because the one you make mad is going to take to social media and possibly take you down. And if there's some more out there that feel the same way, you're in trouble. See, it used to be a business would say, well, get over it, goodbye, you're done. Well, now because of social media, that's not so easily done. And that's a big change. That's a huge change. Questions, comments, thoughts? Is this helpful? LinkedIn, again, make sure your picture's up there, your profile is up there, your business is clear. What you do isn't clear to everybody. What is the service you provide? We don't want to hear you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. We want to hear, what do you do for people? Because if I need a service, I'm looking for that service. She mentioned getting your hair done. If I'm looking to get my hair done, I need to make sure I know it's a real beautician for people as opposed to animals, right? Groomers. So I'm serious. You got to really be clear about how you position your branding and your business. You can't ignore your audience. If people are trying to have a conversation with you, if they're tagging you, if they want to ask you questions, you have to answer. And that's fundamentally different. When I started in TV news more than 20 years ago, we answered telephones. So if you hung up the phone, nobody knew you hung up the phone. If somebody called in a news story, you didn't want to hear it, and you hung up the phone, nothing happened. If people are trying to say or ask a question or have a challenge, whatever it is, and you're not answering, you can't hang up the phone. And it can blow up into something much worse than if you had just answered it. I was an intern back in, 1989, and I received a phone call. I think it was 89. I can't remember. It was between 89 and 91, I was in Milwaukee. But I received a phone call. I was a news trainee. I didn't know anything. I was just a scared young kid. And the caller said, there's a man running down the street bleeding. And I said, this sounds crazy, but I'm too afraid to hang up this phone. I gave it to a reporter. That was the victim that got away from Jeffrey Dahmer. I said, wow, too, because I didn't know I was the one that answered the phone, per se. Somebody was at another news conference telling the story of the intern at ABC who answered the phone. I said, that was me. And they said, do you realize you tipped that story? And it was out of fear. It wasn't like I had, I'm so smart. I'm past it was, I didn't want to miss a story. And so you need to be that way. You don't want to miss a story. You don't want to miss an opportunity to connect to somebody. Because when you service someone well, they're going to tell somebody else about it. I just had a great experience with X business. You can trust them. Because that's what people want nowadays. Trust, respect, value. People want home and family so bad. You look at Robin Williams and the pain and the suffering. People need a sweet spot. Even if you're doing concrete, make it a positive experience. If you're not happy in your business, nobody else will be. If we come in and you look like you sucked on a skunk, we don't want to be bothered with you. You meet people, some of y'all. I am smiling. It's awful. You're talking about doing business with people, but I'm not comfortable in the same space with you. And that's what social media space is. You have to be comfortable, inviting. If I had come in here as the stereotypical, traditional academic professor of old, you'd all be asleep. You'd be tweeting, worst presenter ever. Some of you may do it anyway, that's all right. Right? But the point being is, you have to meet people where they are. That's why I'm trying to look at you. I'm getting eye contact. People, oh God, that would terrify me. If you're going to do business, you better be able to look somebody in the eye. And the same thing happens on social media. Don't ignore people. Jeff Jarvis wrote a book years ago called What Would Google Do? And he said the most important thing for anybody is to be missed. When somebody says, I missed you, I'm glad you're back. That's what you want to do to your customers. Those good ones, those sweet ones. You want to make sure you love on them because they're going to love on others and say, hey, that's where you want to go. Google Glass, they updated it in January. I haven't used it as much. It does have wink technology now. So if I put it on and I wink my eye, I can take a picture. Again, politicians, preachers, they hurt. Say pimps, politicians, and preachers are just out because you can just go like this and you've got them. So at this point, Google really, the way that they're going to use it, I think initially that's very meaningful, I think is for disabilities. And I love that. Because of the text, voice to text ability, and other abilities. They're testing it with Parkinson's patients. They've been used in surgery more successfully. A few surgeries, they used it in the operating room. They were able to connect to the x-rays of the patient. They were also able to connect to residents who were learning medicine, and he was also able to connect to the other experts who had greater expertise than he had in the operating room. So I think those are very positive developments. In terms of wearing it, you know, I'd look pretty strange if I walk around right now with this on. As a matter of fact, Curtis, I'm moving back. As a matter of fact, the other piece of the puzzle, a lot of people thought this was a visual aid. They thought I was visually impaired because it looks weird. So we have to figure that piece out, and Google's figuring it out. They've done it for the left side, for people who are left-handed. They've also looked at prescription, so it's being updated, so those that wear prescription glasses can use them. So what I argue is, it goes back to your main point of the 50% of the population being under the age of 30. Once those kids tip this, that's when it'll tip, I think. It'll take a minute. I don't think our generation, I'm closer to 50 than 40, so I don't think our generation is going to take to it the same way, but I can't dismiss it knowing young people are marching into the picture. So we talk about wearable technology, whether it's a watch. The watches are supposed to be hot this Christmas, the wearable technology. To me, I just need my cell phone. I prefer my cell phone. That's just me. But it doesn't dismiss this. So I am not a poster child for Google, for Yahoo, for anything. I'm a poster child for learning. I'm a poster child for being relevant in the 21st century. People laugh at me when I say this. I'm 45 years old. I'm not going to make it to retirement unless I embrace these tools. And that's real. That's real. So quickly, I have Innovate, Lessons from the Underground Railroad. This is my book. And I talk about how the Underground Railroad is among the most effective, innovative, and disruptive networks in U.S. history, and I compare it to the internet. Because when you start to think about what we're dealing with today, we're dealing with the same issues we dealt with then: freedom, ownership, access, privacy, and boundaries. It's pretty deep. 150 pages, $15 for that one, and then I brought my alphabet book, because some people last year wanted the alphabet book. And this book is just positive words of affirmation with children of color, because unfortunately when my baby, who's now 12, was young, we did not have access to many books, alphabet books, that represented who she is. We had all the other books, we do all of them, but I wanted her to be able to see images that were positive for her too. So those are both up here, and of course I do credit, cash, all that good stuff. Is that good? Thank you, Victor and Marie. Thank you all for having me again. Woo! There you go.